Hi everybody and welcome back to the Going Forward Sim Studio. We are smack dab in the middle of new driver season, and today what I want to talk about is how do we navigate the new club releases, whether it's driver season now at the beginning of the year or when it comes to the irons, wedges, and putters later in the season. How do we know when we need new clubs, if we need new clubs, and how do we go about replacing certain clubs? We might even get a little controversial because we're going to talk about some of the myths, and I'm going to come at you directly with what I have learned, whether it's from my cycling past involved in a world that is very product heavy, or what I've learned here in golf later in life. Let's dive straight into it. So before we talk about my reasons that you should kind of look at as to should you actually purchase a new club or replace the club that you have, we're going to talk about why we want new things. Why does the marketing that's provided to us, especially as golfers, so attractive at certain times of the year? And we're also going to talk about some of the pressure that is put on us as golfers related to our equipment. So the first thing is, why do we want something new anyway? Why do these new drivers come out and we automatically think, hey, if I buy that driver, it's going to do exactly what that marketing department says it's going to do? My guess is it's probably going to make the ball go further, you're going to hit it straighter, and you're probably going to get a little bit more speed out of it. Now, I enjoy marketing. It's an industry that I've been in for a really long time, and I think the golf world does a fantastic job making it really, really fun. They do good work. But that's their job, is they want to sell you golf clubs. The golf equipment industry is massive. I wanted to get you some stats, but I found them to be so all over the place. I just didn't like how inconsistent they were, but it's big. It looks to be at least 20% of the revenue worldwide in the golf industry. So we sit here in the winter time when drivers come out. Most of us are not playing golf in the winter, and it makes us really sit down and go, gosh, you know what? That's right. I definitely need a new driver to make my game work better. When in reality, the cold hard truth is it's probably your swing, right? And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But as we sit down and it's dark and cold out, we automatically think that we can go ahead and buy ourselves a game by following these new driver trends. It's the exact same thing as we hit the irons that usually come out later in the season. It's any time of the year you're going to be able to talk yourself into the fact of, hey, that's absolutely right. That's what my problem is. I know that if I spend this much money on a product, it's going to make me better. Now, in cycling, it was the exact same way. And I'm preaching in golf the same thing I preach in bikes. When people come to me and say, hey, Jeremy, how can I get better at riding bikes? It's always, what can I buy that will make me better quicker? And my response is always, wear out as many tires and chains as you possibly can in a season. And they usually look at me kind of perplexed and they're like, well, what do you mean? And then I make it very clear. The more you ride, the better you're going to be. If you wear out 20 tires in a season versus one set, you probably rode a heck of a lot more and you're going to be a lot better. It goes the same for golf clubs. I'll bet you if you're wearing out your wedges because you practice so much, you're probably going to have a pretty strong short game, right? So what about the pressure, right? One thing I want to really dive into is I see this on social media and it drives me nuts, okay? So I'm going to start out like this. Turn off the noise. Turn off all of the noise when you're taking a good hard look at your equipment and trying to decide what and if something needs to be replaced. What you have in your bag, the clubs that you have, they say nothing about you as a person. Just want to make that really clear. It does not matter if you want to go one brand across your bag. It doesn't matter if you want to use an older set of clubs because it's what works and it gets you on the golf course. It doesn't matter what brand you have. It really doesn't, okay? And I know that as a newer beginner golfer in a sport that is kind of ego-driven, at least that's what the outside world looks at it as, is going to be a lot of pressure and there's going to be stuff that pops up, whether it's satire or funny or whatever it is. What you have in your bag doesn't say anything. It's just whatever can make you comfortable is what needs to be in there. If it makes you happy, you're gonna be a better golfer and you're gonna play a lot better golf because you have the smile. So my first piece of advice, please turn off the noise. Try your best not to care what other people think. Now, I do want to kind of put a little caveat in there. If you set up a bag that's got 6 wedges, a driver, no woods, somebody might say, hey, you know, we could probably fill those gaps a little bit better, and they're probably right. So please, as a newer beginner golfer, don't take away good advice or help, especially from the right people. So what are my reasons? If you're sitting here and you're thinking, I might need new clubs. So I would just look at it this way. Okay, I'm gonna go top down. None of these are in order of importance, but it's kind of how I look at things. Now, I'm the type of person who I like to upgrade stuff. I like gear. If I had it my way, I would have a garage full of all the cool stuff and toys that allow me to go do every activity that I want. I'm also drawn towards the best. So when I see things like tour only, or when I see a set of clubs that are say, hey, these are designed for the better handicaps, I'm gonna automatically get drawn towards those clubs because I feel like those are gonna make me better. Now, golf just isn't like that. So it's really important that you get fit and set into the club that is right for where you are at in your game, which means you're gonna need to be honest with yourself. And you're gonna need to be able to be comfortable enough with yourself to speak to the person who's gonna get you those clubs and say, hey, look, this is where my game actually is. Again, this is not a golfing issue. This is the same thing that happens in every single sport that requires a specifically set up product. In cycling, everybody thinks they're faster than they actually are, and then we get out there and it's this bunch of excuses of why things aren't working. You cannot buy a game. That's a fact. You need to earn it. So, number 1, is it the club or is it your swing? Is your driver or those irons the issue, or is it actually your swing, the slice that that driver is providing you, or the slice that you are providing that driver? If that swing issue doesn't get fixed, well, guess what? You're gonna spend $700 on that fancy new driver, and you're still gonna have that same exact slice. Now, if you know that you have the slice and instead of fixing the slice, you wanna throw a very heavily draw bias club at it, it might help it a little bit, but you're taking a guess, and again, you're attempting to buy a game instead of fix your game. So if that's the case and you know, or you don't know, go see a coach, get a lesson, and see what they say, as long as they're a good coach and they're trustworthy. Hey coach, what do you think? How's my swing? Is this my driver or is it my swing? Very important. Then you gotta look at, is it the shaft or the club head? This gets a lot more technical, and this is gonna probably require you to invest in a really good fitting. Find a fitter that you trust, that you know does good work, that knows enough to be able to say, hey, looking at your swing after we've hit some balls on a simulator, I can look at the data and we can try out these shafts versus heads and they can kind of piece it together. I'm not saying you need to go get fit for an entire bag, but if you really think the driver's the issue, go get a driver fitting and find out, because honestly, a lot of the times the shafts get overlooked and those are gonna be the biggest problem, not just your club head. If you're a newer beginner golfer and you just picked up a set of clubs just from wherever, because I've talked about that, when you're starting golf, you don't need to go and buy a brand new set of clubs. You may have picked up a set of clubs from a friend, you may have gone down to a local shop and bought them used, and quite frankly, they just don't work for you. And that could be one of the clubs in the bag, or it could be the entire bag. So for the case of this, let's say the driver you got is really old, it's beat up, and it's definitely too short for you. You know what? You're probably in the market for a new driver. Again, I would say go get fit for one so that you know what you're gonna get, even if it's just a basic, hey, we'll fit you for a driver for free and give it to you out of the shop. It's a good starting point for us new and beginner golfers. If you're good enough at the game where you know you've got a good swing going and a certain club is just not working, you cannot hit that 3-wood off of the grass no matter what you do. Every time you hit your hybrid, it goes so far left, you never take it out of the bag because you're deathly afraid of hitting it. Go get it replaced. Take that club out of the bag. I can't remember if it was Phil Mickelson or John Daly who says that you should love every club in your bag, and if you don't, take it out and replace it with something that you do. Now, obviously, the better you get with golf, the easier that's gonna be, but as a newer beginner golfer, it's still important for us, especially mentally, that we're not carrying clubs around in a bag that we are afraid to use. So keep that in mind. If you're just bored, okay, or you're jaded in the game and you simply just need a motivational purchase, it's a great time to buy that new driver. Whichever one just draws your eye, whatever marketing department just really kind of speaks directly to you, go buy it. If it motivates you to get out onto the course, to go get some lessons, and to push yourself a little bit harder in practice, I 100% think that that is a great purchase. Doesn't matter if it's a driver, irons, wedges, putter, whatever it is, motivational purchases are fantastic. In fact, you could even do it reverse. Hey, I'm gonna do 10 lessons. At the end of my 10 lessons, when I'm satisfied with my work and my progress, I'm gonna go get that new driver. Maybe you just wanna buy something. I think that's okay. I think a lot of us try to find excuses for buying things, or we have to justify our purchases. You know, people will say, hey, why did you get that? You didn't need that. Or they ask, what did you get that for? You don't even do that. Maybe, but you know what? Sometimes I just want to buy it for no reason at all. It's there, it looks cool, I like it, I have the money, I'm gonna buy it. And I think that's absolutely okay to do. Again, because what's that gonna do? It's gonna be in your bag, it's gonna make you happy. When you pull it out on the tee box or on the fairway, you're pumped. I think that's great, and I think we should all be comfortable saying, hey, I got this just because I wanted to, not to fix this. If you go to buy a club and you're not really good at the game of golf and you say, hey, I'm gonna buy a new driver to fix my slice, you're not gonna fix it. That's why there's a lot of jokes about it. That's why you see memes about it. It's made fun of in almost every single golf-related movie, right? So what does all this boil down to? What it boils down to is we're hit a lot with marketing in this game. And as a newer beginner golfer, we're often incredibly overwhelmed, and it becomes hard to navigate. When do we buy something? When I hear that marketing, I think, gosh, that's me, and I know it's gonna fix something. So just kind of take a step back. Have fun. I love it. I love seeing the advertisements. I like seeing what companies do. There's products that have come out this year that I think are just amazing. More than the driver thing of, hey, it's the same driver as last year with new graphics. You know, I really think TaylorMade with that QI35, they did a great job mixing up some technology they had researched from the past few years. The driver looks like it's actually got some development, looks fantastic. It's something that I would absolutely try if I was looking at replacing my driver. Other brands have released some stuff that I think went backwards, but that's the fun of it. We get to do that as consumers. Be like, oh, don't like that one, it's ugly, really like that one. We don't have to have any rhyme or reason to our opinions. It makes it fun, so enjoy it. Try not to get sucked into it to where you feel like you have to buy every single one. You know, we all have brand loyalty for whatever reason. There's no rhyme or reason to it. We may just like one or the other. Maybe it's Mizuno, maybe it's Titleist. Heck, maybe you're a Strixon fan and that's just the way it goes for you. It's okay. Again, that leads to turn off that noise. Don't worry about what other people think. Do things for yourself. Golf is a game that is so difficult that we need to take our wins. We need to take our wins that give us some happiness, especially when things aren't going very well, right? If you get to pull that club out that you think looks really cool when you're just having an awful day on the course, it's gonna make things a little bit better, and I think that's cool. So don't worry about what other people think. Decide if you need a new club, but just look at it realistically, okay? Don't replace a club because you think it's gonna fix something. Make sure that you understand why, and be confident of that. If it's just because, then it's just because. There's nothing wrong with that. Have fun with release season. The most important thing, get some lessons, get some practice, wear those clubs out so that you have no choice but to replace those clubs. Your significant other won't mind it either. If you're replacing it because you've used it so much that it needs to be replaced, you don't have to worry about that showing up at your front door and having to answer for the purchase. We'll see you next time.